Hi, Catherine and Jerry. So I'm going to give you both of you guys feedback. We'll start with Catherine. So first off, I just want to say you shouldn't be disappointed. That was actually a really good performance. So always try to think of the positive in your performances, because a lot of times I'll sit there, and I think a lot of us do this where we just overanalyze and we're like, oh, that was awful, and in reality it wasn't. So a lot of times we kind of are our worst critic. So some of the really positives that I heard was that you had a really good clarity in your notes, and the playing was just great across the board. Now there are a couple things that we can do, and why I want to make this video in terms of making that great playing a little bit more fine-tuned. So let's start with the first one. You said this was the first time doing Picado and the other technique, the Rasgueado. So with Picado, when I watch your playing, like I said, I hear notes that are super crystal clear, and that's awesome, but I see a lot of movement in the right hand. So if I was just to play the open A, and when I watch your performance, I see quite a bit of movement like that. Now if I was to play it, watch how much movement I have in my right hand. So you don't see any stuff like that happening where I'm actually like moving the wrist or the forearm or any of that kind of stuff, because the action is only in the fingers. So it's just second, first, kind of like you're swimming, right? Imagine that. So one thing you can do too is you can anchor on the top string, and if I play this song just the melody, so none of the chords, that could be a really good way to practice Picado with minimal movement. Okay, and you can make some of those pop too. If you want to start adding like little accents, da 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 da, ba da da da, so you can hit that third one harder. But the idea is just to minimize movement, so we don't want any kind of jerkiness or anything happening. So that's the one thing I'd work on for Picado. I made a video the other day helping Sheila on Rasgueado, and I think it's on page 6. So let's see. Yeah, so the very last post on page 6 is a post by me. It's a video. Watch that video for a few tips on the Rasgueado, and it's tips on getting separation of the fingers to make that make that sound more individualized. But yeah, check that video out too. But other than that, great job. Okay, so now for Jerry, the one thing that I'd work on is sustain. So you're playing and everything on the tune was great, but we want to work on making those notes ring out. So want to make them ring into each other, so not just ring out. And I'm playing this on high G, so it's going to sound a little weird, but I'm too lazy to switch ukes. So let me play a little bit slow, and you can hear sustain. Okay, so we just want everything to ring into each other. So what I would do is I would start really, really slow and just take the first phrase like that speed, and then take the second phrase and work on one of them at a time, but you want everything to ring out. Whoops. And once you get comfortable with that, then you can put them together. Okay, and the goal with sustain is that we hold the note out for the entire duration. Da 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 ba da 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 you can see that no finger lifts up prematurely, and what that does is that it cuts it so it doesn't sound like the staccato. Right, so that's very choppy, right? So we want to just keep the fingerings the whole time on. Even that part. So the only time you see me move is when the duration of that note is done. So they keep fingers kept pressured down on the frets the entire time. So that's really the trick with sustain, is that you just want to keep fingering held down. And if you watch your performance throughout, you can see that it just lifts up. And when it lifts up, that's what causes that little staccato sound. So that's the one thing that I'd work on. Everything else sounded great. You just want to work on keeping pressure applied for the entire duration of the note so that they ring into each other. But good job overall.